Well, hello everybody. Odette Wolf here, coming at you for some tips for your recovery. So do me a favor and stay tuned and watch. It's all for you. Hey everyone, Odette Wolf here, coming at you with some tips for your recovery. So I figure I'll give you guys some tips for recovery. I'm in recovery myself. I have 8 years clean and sober, and my sobriety date is August 16th, 2012. So with that being said, so number one, you need to identify your triggers. Example, external triggers can be created on things based on like people and places. So you want to be aware of people and places. Are them a trigger? Certain places might trigger something. Certain people might trigger something. So really examine and identify your triggers. Another one, like for me, is I had to avoid going out to nightclubs because that was my thing. I used to like to go to nightclubs. I like to go to bars. I used to enjoy going. There was one nightclub here in the valley that in Palm Springs that I really enjoyed going to, along with the ex-wife, and especially Tuesdays and Thursday nights they had where you buy one drink, you get one for free. They called it 2 for 1. So I had to avoid a lot of these places. Another thing I had to avoid was alcohol aisles. Going down an alcohol aisle, I had to avoid that. For at least a good year, I avoided going down alcohol aisles. Anytime I went to a store, I would avoid walking down an alcohol aisle. Another thing for me was I had to eliminate a lot of people in my life. I had to eliminate a lot of friends. So my circle that used to be really big now is very small. I have a very small circle of people who I communicate with and who I hang out with or even go do anything with. So with that is, and I also did my best not put myself in certain situations where I know I would relapse. So I wouldn't go to certain places. I wouldn't go do certain things. I wouldn't talk to certain people. I wouldn't do just like I used to. I used to just on a spur of a moment go hang out with somebody or just go do something with somebody. Now I really take the time and I look at it. Okay, is it going to be worth me going out, hanging out with this person? Because, you know, I'm not one that would be out there drinking. Like I like to go out fishing. Okay, for an example, if I'm going to go fishing, I'm going to go with somebody that doesn't drink. Because what does a lot of people like to do when they go fishing? The guys like to hang out, go fishing, drink, snack on snacks or whatever, you know, cook some meat while they're out there fishing. Okay, that's not me. So if I'm going to go fishing, I'm going to go fishing with somebody that is sober, that doesn't drink, and that's out there to have a good time like I am. Second, you need to recognize your warning signs. Warning signs, for an example, could be anything addictive patterns, you know, your addictive patterns that you had in the past or what you currently have. So, or seeking out certain situations or, you know, environments or hanging out with certain people or hanging out with people who you know for a fact that Mr. Joe over here that you like to hang out with, you know, he likes to do dope, he likes to drink, he likes to do this or do that. You don't want to hang out with them kind of people because, yeah, you might say, hey, I'm strong in my sobriety, but eventually hanging around with the people, the peer pressure, they'll say, oh, come on, Mark, or oh, come on, Mike, or whatever, whoever you are, or Michelle, or, you know, it doesn't matter who you are. You know, the friends might try to push you into, oh, come on, just this one last time. And let me tell you what, all it takes is that one last time. And that one last time might be your one last time. You know, sometimes we don't get a second chance in this life. I know quite a few people that's lost their lives to this. I know I've lost a couple of friends due to addictions or overdosing. One of the rehabs I was at, I had talked to one of the people that were one of the leaders in the home one of the rehabs I had gone to, and I happened to run into this person, and it wasn't even from around here. And I'm talking to that person, and I said, well, he asked how I was doing. I told him I was sober. At the time, I was only a little over a year, and I was asking him if he had seen anybody I was in rehab with. He goes, a lot of them people have passed on. Because when I was in rehab, there was only about 13, 15 of us in that rehab at that time. He goes, there's only about 4 or 5 of you that are left now. And I'm like, oh, really? He goes, he called out one person. He goes, do you recall so-and-so? I said, yeah. He goes, that person, they left. I said, yeah, I remember them leaving. He goes, well, they came back to get help, and they were only like 18 years old, 20 years old, somewhere around there. He goes, they came back to get help, and they begged us to let them go because it was going on Christmas, and they went home, and apparently this person overdosed, and the family ended up finding them on Christmas morning. They had passed away due to an overdose. So peer pressure, could really take you out, no matter what it is. So you want to be careful and recognize your warning signs. Example of returning or thinking of addictive situations, seeking out situations, hanging out with people who's doing that type of stuff. Okay. Another thing is finding yourself in situations involving drugs and alcohol. You don't want to go to me. It took me a while to go hang out with family and stuff, but once I got strong enough in my sobriety and hanging out with Lady Wolf, and I remember going to one of her family functions, and it's a big Hispanic family that she has, and I remember, because I never kept anything from her family or anything, and went to this one family function. It was one of the brothers' birthday, and they had asked if it was okay if they had a drink. And I'm like, yeah, go ahead, I'm okay. They're like, no, are you sure? If you don't want us to drink, we won't drink. And I'm like, no, I'm okay. But, you need to be around positive people and have the support of, family and friends. Her family, they've only known me probably not even a year at that time, but I didn't keep nothing from them. They all knew I was in recovery. All her brothers, she has no sisters, so she's the only girl out of the 6 kids. She's the youngest. And, I thought that was very respectful. So even several times after that, there was a couple other situations where they had little get-togethers, and they asked if it was okay if they could drink, and I'm like, no, it's okay, And they were like, oh, okay, if you don't want us to drink, we won't, And so I'm like, no, go ahead, So now they don't really ask so much, because they know after, me being with her as long as I have, we've been together now since 2013, a little over 7 years, and 7.5 years. And, I started seeing her 4 months into my sobriety. That's another thing. Be careful getting into situations or relationships early in sobriety, because if you get into a relationship and you're in a relationship with a person that's out there using or that likes to drink or whatever, chances are you'll probably end up failing. I'm not saying you will, but more likely you will, because they're out there using it. You're going to feel kind of obligated to get out there and try to use with them, or, oh, it's not going to hurt me this one time. I'll just do it this one time and I'll get back on the wagon. Well, the sad thing is, you fall off that wagon, it's hard to get back on it. It's like me. It took me 10 different rehabs, but I finally got back on it, and it clicked. And by the grace of God, I'm thankful I'm here today. And getting sober, you want to find a higher power, believe in something greater than yourself. whether you choose it to be God. I know a lot of people look at the doorknob as a bad example, but let me tell you what, a doorknob has more power over you than you realize. Because if you didn't have that doorknob to open that door, right, you wouldn't be able to open that door. So therefore, a doorknob has more power over you. The other thing is, again, finding yourself in situations involving alcohol or drugs. Another thing is to be a logical escape from your pain at that time. So just be aware of that. You don't want to get into that. Another thing is you want to avoid old habits and routines, like hanging out around certain people, again, places, doing certain things. You gotta be very careful. Like I said, I downsized mine. I had to eliminate family out of my life. Sadly to say, but I eliminated some family members. The other thing is I eliminated my big family friends of circle. I had a big group of circle of friends, and now it's very small, very small. If you're in my circle and I talk to you, or I text you, or I call you once in a while, consider yourself very lucky because, like I said, I eliminated a lot. So find yourself some positive, surround yourself around a bunch of positive people. That'll help also. Also, try to stay cool, try to stay calm, because, us people who are out there misusing drugs or alcohol tend to have a little bit of anger issues, especially when trying to get sober, because you feel like everything's falling apart, or you just feel like everything's going wrong, and you get irritated, you get very irritable. And so, again, you want to surround yourself around positivity. One of the things that helped me with mine was I would do some meditation. I would read my big book. Probably in my next video, I will talk about the big books. There's a couple of different books that I've read through that's kind of helped me. The big book, the daily reflections, your 12 steps, 12 traditions, how Bill sees it. And so again, I don't go to AA all the time. I used to go to AA a lot, but now, I don't go as much as I used to, but I tried at least, prior to COVID, make at least a meeting a month or a speaker meeting once a month. You want to do that because that's going to help you. And it helps you keep grounded. In early sobriety, you want to try to do at least 90 meetings in 90 days. Now, for me, I did that, and I did some more on top of that. So sometimes I would do 2 meetings a day. Sometimes I did 3 meetings a day. It just really depended on how I was feeling that day. So if you're going to try that, hey, get into doing something like that. Another thing, if you're going to consider getting yourself clean and sober, seek medical professional help, because you do not want to do this on your own. It's too dangerous, very dangerous. Get your medical provider to help you with this, because you got to be tapered off of stuff, whether it's being admitted to a hospital or whatever it is. But do not attempt to do this on your own, because too many people have lost their lives trying to do it their way. And I can't express enough, get medical professional help in doing this. The other thing is developing a structured schedule. Get yourself on a structured schedule. Because that'll help you to hold yourself accountable for different things. Like, I got to be at work at this time, or I'm going to go for my walk at this time. I know it's going to take me, like this morning, for an example, for me, I went on my morning walk, 2-mile walk. It took me 45 minutes. Yeah, it takes me a little bit longer because I just recently had a total knee replacement. But I know it takes me 45 minutes. Now, when I go back to work on Monday, starting Monday, I go back to work. Now, I'll have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, normally, to make it to my scheduled shift at 7 o'clock. So now, so I could do my morning walk in the morning, I'm gonna have to get up at 4:15, okay? And so I could go do my 45-minute walk, come home, take a shower, get dressed, and get on the road and get to work. So get yourself on a structured schedule. It'll help with things like that. Because if you're not structured, scheduled, you're all over the place. And early sobriety, your mind's going 100 miles an hour. Let me tell you, it's just going go, 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 go. And you want to be able to hold yourself accountable for whatever it is that you're doing. The other thing is cause of being or having disorganization lifestyle can be what is that word? It could be very disastrous because you could hinder your recovery process. You know, if you don't have any organization or know what you're doing, it could really hinder your process of getting sober, because you want to be able to do certain things, keep your mind occupied, do certain things, get yourself occupied. So if it's whether meditating, going for a walk, lifting weights, going for a bike ride, whatever it is, do stuff like that. But then, you know, get yourself on your schedule. Okay, I got to work. Okay, when I get off of work, I'm going to go home, I'm going to shower, whatever. I'm going to go hit a meeting, or I'm going to sit and read my big book. I strongly suggest get yourself a big book, get yourself a daily reflections book, and get yourself a 12 and 12. Now, by no means am I a sponsor. Okay, I am not a sponsor. I have not personally worked the steps with a sponsor, and I don't have a sponsor. Okay, but I have read through the steps myself, to myself, and worked them through myself that way. So when I say I haven't worked the steps, I haven't worked it with an actual sponsor. And the reason I don't have a sponsor or haven't worked my steps with a sponsor is because I find it very hard to spill my personal things that I got going on to somebody I don't know. I'd rather spill it out to Lady Wolf or my mother or one of my sisters. But to sit there and tell somebody my story of, you know, what led me down that path of using or drinking, I just find it a little bit hard to be able to explain that to somebody. Now, I'll tell you my story, you know, about me using and drinking, but what led me to that point, you know, it's very personal, and I just find it hard to be able to explain that to somebody. So again, if you're going to be trying to get clean and sober, seek medical professional help. Please, you know, get the help. Do this, because the more that you get sober or clean, the clearer your mind becomes. I remember when I first started, and still after 8 years, I still have a lot of clarity come about. I forget what they say, for every year that you do drinking, it's like a year and a half. I don't remember, don't quote me on that. I forget how many years it takes, because drinking or using drugs kill off the brain cells. So for every year that you drink, it takes longer for your brain cells to repair itself. Or your liver, if your liver's not totally shut. Like when I was drinking, the doctor told me that, hey, if you don't stop drinking, you know, you're going to end up with cirrhosis of the liver, and you're going to die because your liver's starting to show signs of damage. And that was another reason why I got sober. And so he goes, I'm going to repeat your labs in 3 months. And so 3 months later, it's still showing. 6 months, he goes, hey, your labs are starting to look a little bit better. A year later, my labs came back perfect. Nothing. It wasn't showing any signs of damage. So depending on how far you are into how much damage has been done to your liver or to your brain cells, it could possibly fix itself. I'm not saying it will. I'm not no medical professional. I don't know. For me, my liver was able to, functions came back better. My mind came back really clear. Each longer I stayed sober, my mind become more clearer. Because I know with the people that do a lot of heavy drinking, and I was doing a lot of heavy drinking, from a fifth of vodka to the 1.75 liter bottle of vodka between myself and my ex-wife a day, sometimes starting on a second, yeah, that's a lot of drinking. So, some people develop what they call wet brain. You get wet brain and different things, and basically your brain turns into a mush. And, I don't know if your brain can fix itself. But again, get yourself some books. The big book is called the Big Blue Book. It's about yay thick. It's about 400 something pages. And the first 164 pages of that is basically the whole story of the book. And if you turn to page 112 of that book, it says, read this book. The first 3 words, read this book, on page 112. That tells you the whole story right there. Read that book, the first 164 pages. After the 164 pages is a bunch of personal stories of different people. It's a very good book. The way it's written is kind of poor language and, how it's written, but you got to consider this was an old book that's been written many, many, many times. Daily Reflections is another one I like because it goes by a day. So like for today, for an example, it'll give you a verse, and the meaning and where to look at in the 12 and 12 or your Alcoholics Anonymous. So, and the Alcoholics Anonymous book, the Big Blue Book, is the same as Narcotics Anonymous. They just switch Alcoholic Anonymous for Narcotics Anonymous. So with that being said, I hope you guys find this very informative or somewhat informative. Do me a favor, hit that like button. Consider liking. You don't have to hit it. You don't have to do anything. It's your choice. I don't want to push you into it. Please consider liking and subscribing and sharing this with your friends. And again, if you're going to get sober, if you're looking to get sober, please get medical professional help in doing it. Do not do this alone. I cannot express that enough. I know I said it several times throughout this video, and I can't express it enough. Please, please get the help. And let me tell you what, the more that you're sober and the longer you're sober and clean, the better off you'll become and the better you'll feel. So with that being said, you guys have a great day. Stay sober, be blessed, and remember, sobriety for life.